his goals went from building 100 million to a billion. Actually, it's 2 or 3 billion now. And so he has naturally, remember, your boards are in transition. But if you start looking for board members for $1 billion company, you won't likely have to change them anytime soon. But if you start looking for your first acquisition, 500,000, a million, 3 million, and you work up to 50, 100 million, 300 million, you're going to realize what they mean, board in transition. Because the same guy or gal that helped you on the smaller deals probably doesn't have the gravitas, the experience, etc., that'll help you on the bigger deals. So he started on the bigger deals. So he doesn't have that same challenge. One of his board members, his potential board members that was in the UK and he's based in Singapore, they flew to him on their own nickel. Now, at least half of you are going to tell me when it's time to have a board meeting, and I'll explain to you when it's time to have a board meeting. And, should I pay for their expenses? I'm telling you right now, don't ask me, because the answer is no. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't pay for them to come to the motherfucking meeting. They pay for themselves. If they're not interested enough to get on a motherfucking plane, next. Does everybody understand that? So don't fucking ask me. And do you pay for their hotel? No.
They claim it back.
I don't give a fuck what they do. You're not paying it. You got no money. But you're embarrassed to ask them because you have low self-esteem. You think nothing of you and or your deal. Okay, the guy flew from London to Singapore on his own dime. And that's really crucial. They either believe or they don't believe. I'll jump ahead now. We don't have board meetings unless we have something to talk about. As the Onassis people used to teach me decades ago, when they arguing about, how we're going to cut up the cake, we'll talk about cutting up the cake when we already baked the cake. When we got something to argue about, then we'll argue. In the meantime, some of the guys, I've seen deals fall apart before they even got started because one guy wanted 25% and the other guy wanted 4%. It doesn't mean anything because most of the deals, even using this methodology, most of the deals you're going to initiate are not going to make it. The cake's not going to get baked. The baby's not going to be born. Even using this, just imagine not using this methodology, looking for motivated seller, how many deals crater. Remember, 95% of all deals that go for sale worldwide don't sell. So that's 9.5 out of 10 deals don't sell. That means they don't get done. So why are you arguing about all this horse shit when it's not going to come to fruition anyway? That's really important. It's crucial. It's a lot of wasted time. One of the other things with Des, which he didn't say on screen, he has a daughter who graduated from St. Andrews University, and in 4 years he'd never been to visit her there. And then she says, now some old psychopath that lives in a castle down the road from us, you come to visit me now. Because now, he wants to come here. And so he came here to visit, and we spent a couple hours in the afternoon together. Okay, what are your questions about, or takeaways, or any comments that you want to make about Des?
For the board, for the remuneration, because you haven't got no money, do you give them equity?
Yeah, well, we're going to, okay. We're a couple days ahead of it. Okay, you get a dream board, your dream team. You give the board members free founders equity. Important. Put that in free founders equity. And when you get the scripts, etc., you're going to see free founders equity. That's how you suck them into the Venus flytrap. That's how, because in this country, in any country, including America, nobody gets free founders equity. The only time you ever heard about free founders equity was from Silicon Valley, dating 30, 40 years ago.
What does that mean?
That means you have 100% of equity in a new co yet to be formed, and you're going to give we talk about this, each director, you're going to give 1 to 2% for non-executive directors, 3 to 5% for a CFO, maybe 10% for a chairman, And at the end of that distribution, you still wind up with more than 50%. Remember, right now you got 100% of nothing. And you're here. And the people on YouTube have got less because they're not here. Okay? They couldn't scrape together the money to get here. Which is still, when I started doing these seminars almost 26 years ago, and in those days, I think it was $6 or $8 grand, it was nothing. I couldn't understand why people couldn't come up with $6 or $8 grand 25 years ago. When I was my poorest, when I had nothing, I could come up with 10 grand. I mean, when I had nothing, I could come up with 10 grand. You know, like I took a shit. And then, I mean, I know some people save, but that's I don't give a fuck. You are where you are because of you, nobody else. The fact that you had to save 9 years to get here, I don't give a fuck. That's your challenge, not mine. But in the realm of things, even when I was my poorest, I was richer than most of the people that watch me on YouTube. I don't know anybody that can't come up with 20, 25 grand. I don't know physically, other than seminar attendees, I don't know anybody that I've talked to in the last 25 fucking years that can't come up with $25,000. I don't know anybody. Literally. I may have bumped into him at an airport or some shit, or stood next to him in a fucking elevator. And the people that I know that couldn't come would be embarrassed to say they couldn't come up with 25 grand. Do you realize how low on the fucking motherfucking food chain you are? Do you realize how low on the fucking totem pole you are? This is what you should do. Metaphorically speaking, of course, for the lawyers. You should blow your fucking brains out. When I say you should roll down the fucking inside of your fat mama's leg, I mean it. Okay, what else about Deb?
He leads from the front. He doesn't hide behind his board.
Correct. That's an excellent point. And I don't need to be on anybody's board. I don't need to be your chairman. But most people think when they ask me to be chairman, and if I don't have any conflicts, and if I say yes, they think that it's like holding a, Captain America holds that shield in those Marvel movies things. I'm not that, because I don't do shit. I don't protect you from anything. And the chairman that you're going to have aren't going to protect you from anything. It's you. So when your dream team fails, it's not that the dream team failed, it's you that failed. And when he was talking about perception is reality, and he talked about coming dressed for meetings in the tech environment, which they don't dress up hardly at all. But you have 2 times to make a first impression. First, how you look. And you're going to trick fuck them because you're going to dress better now. And the second time is when you open your fucking mouth. And then no matter how you dress, when you open your mouth and you step on your dick, it does away with how you're dressed. And most of you, just as you don't know what fucking fork to use when you sit down in a meal like you did last night, don't know what to say. And that's the real reason you don't go see your board members. Because you're afraid. With an email, God forbid you use a text or a text. I mean, this is eyeballed. This is mano y mano, man to man, woman to woman, woman to man, whatever. And that's why you don't, because you haven't learned to articulate what you want, your desires, your needs, because we've got a generation and a half that's growing up hiding behind the computer. And that's why you really don't. That's why you really don't. But you lead from the front. So you've seen 2 so far. You've seen a young guy in his early 30s, well-educated again, made a bunch of acquisitions already. Deb, who's still in the hunt, well-educated, who has done this before for a billionaire that he worked for, and now he's doing it for his own account. And every day you'll see somebody, you'll see 2 or 3 others. Anything else about Deb?
He plays for strengths. He's playing to his strengths. He's not improving his weaknesses. If you place your strengths, your weaknesses like that, then your weaknesses will actually deteriorate.
Correct. And that comes in a little later, but you're right. I don't believe in making what you're not good at good. I believe in, and I've seen it with my own eyes, you take what few strengths you have and you make them better. Some of you have the gift of gab, not too many, but some people have the gift of gab. In other words, they can articulate what they want, and they have self-confidence. Okay, some people look better than they sound. Okay, some people sound better than they look, but you got to get the door open, so you better look better. And when the 4th day, when we talk about what to wear, how to dress, etc., you'll see how you've, not just you, how generally speaking, we've been degraded as a human race to how we dress now. I believe the reason why we haven't been invaded by aliens is because they look down there and say, what the fuck? I mean, these guys are all fucked up down there. I really believe that, not just how we dress, but I mean, and not because we're always at war and we're killing each other. I mean, not that. I mean, what have they done? Shit, it took them all these years to get on the moon, and now they're fucking around talking about Mars. We'll come back and see them in 1,000 years. That's what I believe, Anything else about Deb? Any questions?
Affirmations.
Pardon?
He did affirmations.
Affirmations, okay. Normally, when the older guys see that have never done affirmations, see how well affirmations work. And he's certainly on the older end of the continuum. He's in his late 50s. And Brian Rose attests, not that he's better than most of the people that have come through the seminar. But it's harder. QLA is hard for engineers, accountants, lawyers, doctors, scientists. The more education you have, the harder it is, because you've learned to think linearly, and 2 + 2 + 2 = 6, not 2 to the 12th power. Even though you may be a mathematician, and you've been taught in fact patterns. Lawyers learn in fact patterns, and this is not fact pattern based. This is not linear based. This is geometric based, and it's hard when you've learned to think one way. But that's why the younger kids have it easier, because they don't have. It's not just learning that way; it's practicing what you've learned for 10, 20, 30 years. Then it becomes very difficult to change that fact pattern. Now, I've been doing this for 50 years, more or less, and so my fact pattern is thinking that way. My fact pattern is when you sit next to me, I can tell you I already know before, because I've seen all your paperwork, and I've seen, when I ask questions like, what's the most high performance thing that you've ever done? And you list. Okay? Remember that question? And what's the most high performance thing that your significant other has ever done? And you put it down. And some of you that have married and have kids, my mom. My wife is a full-time mom, and she's the best mom that ever lived. And give me a break. Who are you measuring her against? That's the only thing you can say. She's trying to make a pot of shit into a pot of gold. She's some old fat slag that sat home and took care of kids. That's all she is, with sagging tits. But you got to bullshit yourself. She's the greatest fucking wife that ever was, or ever, whatever you call her. They used to call them old lady. How's my old lady? She still bends over when I need it. Nothing's changed. What's the most significant thing your parents ever did? For those of you that said that your parents have no regrets, the honest answer is I've never asked them. You're probably one of your regrets is having you. At least Asian cultures are honest about it. In the caveman days, when your teeth fell out, the children used to chew your food and then put it in your mouth because you couldn't chew it anymore. Asians, normally the kids are their pension plan. They work so they can support their kids. Isn't it embarrassing to think that your parents live vicariously through you? As if you had done anything in your life. That's a sad fucking commentary on the human race. So when you answer all those questions, but of course if you just bullshit me, and occasionally I get bullshitted, but as soon as I meet the person, I know what the real answers are. That it's just like the weekly reports. You're going to have about 75 questions, more or less. And when you don't perform against the question the way it's asked or phrased, your response is supposed to be, I cunted out. Not leaving it blank. No, I cunted out. And when you see 40 or 50 I cunted outs out of 75, it becomes clear to you why you are the way you are. Because I want you to see it. I don't want to be, what we do here is intellectually easy, emotionally almost impossible. I'm going to say it again. What we do here is intellectually easy, but almost impossible emotionally. Because you don't have the emotional bank account. Deb called it emotional, what do you call it? No, he called it something else. Emotional bank balance. Yeah, well, he doesn't even know the right words. It doesn't matter. Your emotional bank account is there. There's two bank accounts in life. There's a financial bank account and an emotional bank account. Most of you think you have no financial bank account because you got little or no money. A few of you got a few pennies, but anyway, okay? But it's the emotional bank account that builds so you can have a financial bank account. I've always had high self-esteem. And when I graduated, when I was brought back to the school you got to explain about, in 1991 as the most distinguished alumni in the history of the school, and they were interviewing, CBS was interviewing Dr. Shirley Teeter, who was the dean of the School of Business, where I went to school. And they said, Dr. Teeter, you've known Mr. Peña a long, long time, blah, blah, blah. What changes have you seen over 20, 25 years? And she said, she looked right in the camera, and this is a woman, she was, I don't know if she was Seventh-day Adventist, but she was a religious gal. She didn't drink or smoke or anything, didn't wear makeup or any of that. And she says, the only thing that's changed with Danny, and that's what I used to be called, Danny, is that his accomplishments caught up with his big fucking mouth. Now, this is a woman that wouldn't say shit if it was in her mouth. That's the animosity and the hatred she had for me, penting up for 25 years. My accomplishments caught up with my big fucking mouth. Because I always talking shit. When Muhammad Ali, before he became the world champ, and he was Cassius Clay, talking shit, I'm the greatest, remember that? He was just talking shit, right? McGregor, talking shit. But I was talking shit before not before Ali was born, but certainly before Conor McGregor was born. Because I always knew, I didn't know how or what, but I always knew. I knew I was God's gift. I was God's gift to women, and I proved that in fucking multiples. You don't know anybody else that got more ass in a toilet seat at a bus station than me. Nobody. They don't, rock stars. I've met rockers. The old rockers used to get, 4 or 5 blowjobs a night. Me and them had something in common. I should have been I should have been a fucking rocker with long fucking hair. Okay, YouTubers, go fuck yourselves. Thank you.